And what I think, the way I've thought about it recently is IFS is tapping into things that humans have been using for healing for thousands, maybe millions of years.
Going Inside is a podcast on a mission to help people heal from trauma and reconnect with their authentic self. Join me, trauma therapist John Clarke, for guest interviews, real-life therapy sessions, and soothing guided meditations. Whether you're navigating your own trauma, helping others heal from trauma, or simply yearning for a deeper understanding of yourself, Going Inside is your companion on the path to healing and self-discovery. Download free guided meditations and apply to work with me one-on-one at johnclarketherapy.com. Thanks for being here. Let's dive in. Excited to reintroduce my guest. His second time on the show. Seth Kopald is a certified level 3 IFS practitioner. He holds a PhD in organization management with a specialization in leadership and a master's in education. Seth is an experienced IFS training program assistant for levels 1, 2, and 3. He's also been on Dick Schwartz's staff for multiple retreats, and Seth facilitates his own retreats and workshops. Seth is also the author of the book Self-Led. Seth, thank you for coming back. What's going on in your world these days?
Yeah. Hi, John. It's good to see you. Wow. What's going on in my world? Personally, I've been diving into woodworking, traditional woodworking. So I've been building a workbench for all traditional hand tools, which is a very more intimate relationship with wood, like really understanding the grain and how does wood want to be worked and not. A lot of patience, a lot more quiet.
Yeah.
So that's been a passion. And in my work, I've been doing a bunch of podcasts. I've been doing some training. Actually, recently, some Imago folks asked me to do an IFS training with them recently. And I brought in how do we work with couples from an IFS lens and some IFIO stuff. And a lot of my work, I have dipped into the mystical land. Right now, I'm a consultant for doing Akashic Records reading. And I'm also at the learned Reiki, and I'm at that master level of Reiki. And I feel like it's really helped my IFS work and the work I do with people. And it's made me even a more intuitive practitioner as I'm with people. There's a lot more sensing of other people's systems than I was able to do prior to some of that other work I've been doing.
Yeah, let's keep building on that. One question I have for you is, why do you think it is that IFS pairs so well with the spiritual, energetic, mystical sides of life? And yeah, how is that all coming together in your evolution as a practitioner, a person?
One thing I will say is, I think one of the most beautiful things my therapist ever said to me was like, there's the clinical side to IFS and there's the mystical side. And Seth, I see you on the mystical side, which, because I was trying to fit myself over here and it wasn't completely working. And so that really gave me some opening. And what I think, the way I've thought about it recently is IFS is tapping into things that humans have been using for healing for thousands, maybe millions of years. Indigenous cultures go inside and go to parts, have guides, have unburdenings. And I think IFS essentially codified it in a way for Westerners to make sense of it.
Yeah.
And what I noticed for myself is that IFS is like a door, like a road. If we stay on the road, it could still feel very Western, clinical. We don't need to go into the mystical at all. But if you stay on that road long enough, almost everyone starts noticing something opens up. These things are happening in people's systems. Things that people are seeing ancestors, or people are seeing guides, or working with UVs, or just synchronicities that, like, what is actually happening here? And what I notice is once we get into that realm, like I was very much like, IFS is the only way. Like if I have IFS, I don't need anything else. And even though I wasn't thinking other things were bad, but I was like, I don't really need anything else. But since I've seen you last, I've definitely got more into somatics and other things where, there's this body that also holds burdens and energies that might not necessarily be tied to a particular part. And even back in the day, before I found all this out, with legacy material, I'd often say, okay, now that the part has released this, let's just check your whole body. Is it lingering? So I had an intuitive sense, but now with this work I've been doing, I'm noticing like sometimes we just need to breathe it out or shake it out or dance it out or move it out or use Reiki or ask, even through Akashic Records, we could ask the record keepers to help clear something out. Or So for me, I feel like IFS, and as people know, was given to Dick through a spiritual experience. It just lends itself naturally to the way humans, I think, naturally could heal.
Yeah, I have to say, it's one of the things I love the most about it, because as a psychotherapist and coming from this clinical medical model, for me, it's been the missing piece that I didn't know I needed. And a lot of therapists think, how do I incorporate, quote, spirituality into their practice? If you're someone like me, a guy who grew up going to church in the South, then that would mean like having your clients talk about their faith or their Christianity or their whatever. Now, I've been in California now for most of my working life. So one of the blessings of that is I meet lots of different people with lots of different ideas and inspirations. And Bob Falconer has been on this show a bunch of times, lives 25 minutes from me now. And this would be the place to come and have weird ideas and have alternative ways of looking at healing. In my own evolution, I've also been trained in Reiki now, level 2, and I work and do table sessions as a recipient with my Reiki master, and I'm just open to whatever might happen on that table. And the more open I am, the more powerful the experience usually is, right? And myself and my Reiki master are just in awe of what can happen when you're open to it, right? And really, when there's a combined self-energy in the room, and she has a extremely powerful presence, gift, and openness and intuition, right? So it's like that thing that I told one of my clinicians yesterday. I was like, she asked me like, what do I believe about X, Y, and Z? And I was like, the older I get, the more I'm just like, who knows? Could be, maybe. Who am I to say like what's real and what isn't? Whereas on the other hand, I think a lot of times, especially as a practitioner, we try to reduce like what healing is because we need to understand it. We need a schema that's like tight enough to be like, here's what I'm doing for 45 minutes with Seth. And a lot of that is for the therapist or the practitioner to be like, I have a frame, I'm going to hold it for 45 minutes.
Yeah. And even as you say that, I feel like I get more and more downloads now. I just hear the words like cultural burden. Yeah. The way people have been trained, it's been passed down. This is the way, this is the frame.
In today's episode, I want to thank our sponsor, Jane. Jane is a clinic management software and EMR that helps you handle your clinic's daily admin tasks so you can free up your evenings and weekends. The team understands how precious your time is and recognizes that charting can often be the most time-consuming part of your practice. So to save you from having to chart from scratch, you can check out Jane's template library, which gives you access to templates that have been generously created and shared by health and wellness practitioners in the community. Once you have a template you like, you can choose to customize it further with charting tools such as range scales, text fields, check boxes, and more. To see how Jane can help you spend more time doing what you love, head to the link in the show notes to book a personalized demo. Or if you're ready to get started, you can use the code JOHN at the time of sign up for a 1-month grace period applied to your new account.
Being a practitioner has been nice because I haven't had to break out of any of those frames. I came in wide open. And so it's been helpful for me. And now that the mystical side of IFS is even being embraced more and more, because it used to be like, there's all this, but shh, don't tell anybody because it might not be accepted. And now it's out of the gates. And I think people are you can't deny what's happening. And I also think looking at my own kids who are in their 20s and working with younger people, I think as a human race, we are evolving into like these kids have way more spiritual ability.
Yes, they do.
Than I think my generation has. Like I grew up with metaphysics and was doing stone healing as a teenager, and I've always been into it. And I feel like for me, I've developed it. And then I see these natural abilities in these kids, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's quite incredible. Yeah. So I do think there's something happening with the human race that we are moving into a more like readiness for more spiritual type of experiences. And even when I was in my 20s, I remember walking around Corvallis, Oregon. I had long hair and I'd keep a little journal with me. And one time I paused and said, what if things that feel supernatural could one day just feel natural? Like these things that feel like ESP and all these things, like if we only use so much of our brains, what if these are just natural abilities, and what if it becomes normal and not like abnormal or supernatural?
I read something the other day. I was on the website of a psychic, and they said basically everyone is psychic. It's just a matter of the psychic has built that muscle and been open to that way of receiving information, which was really interesting. So that offers this invitation of, it's less of a like, those are special spiritual being that, and I'm not, right? Or I'm not spiritual in that way or whatever. I always appreciate that you and I have your background with education, organizational psych. We talked a lot about kids and child development last time, which I really love that you have that perspective in IFS, because I've got a 5-year-old, I've got another one on the way. I think all the time, every day, about child development, right? And then I'm sitting here working with adults with trauma day in and day out. And all of that is inner child work, right? All of that is...
Yeah, I was going to say, you're working with adults who have children inside.
That's right.
And the more people know about child development, I really think this feels like a weird thing to say, but sometimes I think self even needs a little coaching. Like people say, once you're in self, you know what to do. And I think that's true. And if the practitioner or the person knows a lot about child development, when a 5-year-old says, I think it's important that I maintain the family's finances, obviously everyone would say, yeah, a 5-year-old shouldn't do that. But what is a 5-year-old capable of? And what would a 5-year-old, what's their cognitive ability? So of course they would think these things, because the brain development of a 5-year-old is limited compared to an 18-year-old or to a 25-year-old even. And if you're a man, your brain not might mature until you're like 35. So it's knowing these things really helps a practitioner or a therapist to help the client attune to these younger parts, and even just have like the big P perspective. Oh, of course, a 3-year-old. Like now that a 3-year-old would think this way, how do you feel towards this part now?
Right.
It's like, exactly. Now my heart just cracks wide open.
With this thing around spirituality and kids, I learn so much from my daughter every day. And since the last time we met, my wife and I and my daughter, we had been living in Mexico City, and through my daughter's school and just through living there, we celebrated Dia de los Muertos, right? Really beautiful tradition that they have in Mexico to honor those who have passed. In my experience, there was no formal tradition for that for me growing up. Like we might talk about grandpa or see a photo and that was it, right? And there's a lot of grief around it, and a lot of unresolved grief around it, and a lot of finality around that's it. He was here, now he's not. In Mexico, and even having kids, my daughter was 4 at the time, like celebrating this holiday and celebrating this culture and this ritual and building an altar, right? And sending a message to these loved ones, right? And connecting with them on a spiritual level is just a beautiful, like really healing tradition for me to go through, and also for me to see how natural that was for little kids to do. They didn't think it's weird at all. And I was also kind of afraid to make them uncomfortable, and we have to talk about death and all this stuff. And to them, it's like they have less hangups about it than I do. It was very natural for them to do that and build these altars and offer food and all these pieces. So I learned so much through going through that with my family and with my daughter.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And as you say that, what's making me think of is for myself in this last year, my mom who is passed in January, was my main tormentor in my life. And probably 90% of the IFS work is rooted to her. And she like cut off her whole family from herself and for me. And there's this whole pattern of disconnecting with people. And this past year, doing some deep work, I was able to clear a lot of her energy out of my body. But then what started happening, I started reconnecting with that side of my family through the ancestral realm, not really meeting them in person so much, but feeling like my mom's father died when she was a baby. That's the whole story. And now he came to me, and I realized one time hit me, like, where do I get this from? I'm not like my mom. I'm not like my dad. Like, where do I get, is this just me? And then he came to me and said, no, you got it from me. Like this personality, the way you look at things. And then I felt like the whole line of that family just kind of funneled in and became part of me. Like now I'm like a result of this family line, which took the aloneness that I was holding in the world. Like it just dissolved this feeling like I'm floating as this individual alone. Like I really having that support and knowing where you come from, it was like a ground that I didn't know I needed.
Yeah.
That I'm standing on. And I used to work with migrant farm worker families, and and I always saw there's a light that these families would have, even though they're like the poorest people in the United States, going from farm to farm, making pennies, and no one, like this invisible culture that no one sees. But when at the end of the day, they come up, pick up their kids from the childcare centers, and they're just like glowing with basically in community. And it's because they do have these extended family networks of support.
Yeah.
And we think here in the United States, it's really advantageous to be this rugged individual. You should be able to do things yourself. But having that ancestral support, I can't say how much it's helped me in the last year to become more whole as a person.
Yeah. It's huge. It's part of the bigger story of you and how you got here. Yeah, I've had similar experiences in my personal IFS work and having ancestors come forward, especially around themes of my individualism, my like internalized patriarchy, basically around I have to do everything myself. I need to be strong and brave and infallible. I need to work really hard so I make lots of money, even if it's at the detriment of myself or my health. And we see this playing out, and we see in my case, like a lot of men who come to my practice because that paradigm is no longer working, right? Or they're stressed, or they got angry and they snapped at their partner, and now they've got their shame parts are up, right? All this plays out all the time. But there were some really powerful sessions I did with Tammy where I had ancestors coming forward and showing me how we got here and showing me how a lot of these legacy burdens were inherited. That's how they ended up in the lap of my dad and in the lap of me. Right. And there I was around this campfire with these ancestors with the choice now. The choice is like the opposite of trauma. Like choice is like where healing happens, right? So I had choice in that moment as to what degree do I want to inherit this burden, or do I want to keep it going and pass it along to my children, and especially this piece around masculinity. What does it mean? So that was just a massive session, and I was both like in all that was happening and this is crazy, and also this is completely natural and it's just happening. I can't make this stuff up. Sometimes clients go, am I just making this up? Does it really matter? And do you feel like it's real? Looks like it's real. Something's happening. Does this feel safe? Hey, if you're a therapist, I want to help you deepen your client work, help them get better results without burning yourself out. You can do all this by learning to harness the power of IFS. So I want to tell you, we've got a free IFS resource library that you can download now. This is full of resources like my quick start guide to IFS, the full IFS protocol, a bunch of demos of me doing IFS with real people, and extra self-care practices for therapists. You can get all this for free in the link in the description, and I hope you enjoy.
And I like to say to clients, like, one thing I can tell you is I'm seeing this happening again and again, and it's becoming like my informal data is saying you're experiencing what other people are experiencing. This is becoming normalized. And one thing I'll add to what you're saying is, for people that are listening, I think it's important. I heard the term energetic hygiene recently, and I think that's more to do as you're helping people clear stuff, just to make sure if you're picking up things that you're clearing your system. But I think on another level is like, these are societal burdens that are continuously coming at us. So even though I might release some patriarchy or release some individualism, 5 years from now, it's going to build up again because we're porous and it's coming in. So I think it's really important to continue and to also let us know I like to say energy goes in, energy can come out. It's that simple. And once we realize that this energy is not mine, we don't really have to do this in big, deep witnessing session. Like quite often, like I was with my therapist the other day and I realized there was energy in me that wasn't mine. And I was like, okay, give me a second. And I basically just imagined my crown opening and it just leaving and going out my window and into the earth. And I'm like, okay, that next, what are we doing now? But once we realize that stuff flows in, it could also flow out, that it's good to check once in a while. And okay, now, am I automatically doing these behaviors again? I thought I cleared that out of my system. Why am I talking like I haven't? It's not necessarily like it didn't work, but sometimes stuff comes back in and we just have to be conscious.
Yeah. I'm a believer. The more I do this work, the more I'm a believer. Long time ago, I was traveling through Ireland, and my wife and I stayed with like a host family in exchange for working on their farm. And the woman was a psychotherapist and a druid. She and her husband were both druids. And I remember the way that she approached psychotherapy was very much with this spiritual and energetic piece as well. And she thought it was absolutely crazy that she asked me if I do any sort of clearing or energetic hygiene in between sessions. Is no, I'm trained as a psychodynamic therapist. Whereas in reality, what that is like inviting projection, inviting that energy transfer, right? Inviting some of it to come at me so that I can, right, work it and bring it back to you and create this corrective healing thing. But the residue that I would pick up and had picked up over the years until I slowly have found this other way of working. That's not to say I'm like 100% good all the time and in my center, but she just thought it was absolutely crazy that any healer would go in like that or see 6 or 7 or 8 people in a day, which is the life of many therapists, if not most.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure it contributes to burnout. And, how many of us as practitioners or therapists, it's really easy to guide people and be in self with people, but then we struggle in our own personal lives. And how much of that is, how percentage of that is the fact that we're holding other people's energy? There's some really beautiful techniques. I think one thing, I might mention this in my book, one of my therapists taught me this. It's like this, I call it the golden screen technique, where you can imagine, if I'm holding even some of my mom's energy or my partner's energy or my kids, that I could give it back to them, but put it through this golden screen, and the golden screen collects anything that's not positive, anything that's not their essence. So I'm not going to send back the yuck, and then the screen collects the yuck, and then you can burn it off. Usually it looks to me like tar that gets stuck, which oftentimes what burdens look like to me and many people. And I have a dragon that I just see burning it off. And then in the same sense, if I've given my energy to people and I feel depleted, I can pull my energy back through the other side of the screen and collect any yuck. Yeah. And it's one way to do that. The person who I taught Akashic Records said, if you just feel like there was a heavy session, or say you worked with somebody with a lot of energy or like negative energy or UBs, even to wash your hands with cold water is one way to just like clear yourself. People use sage, people use stones. There's certain stones are really great for blocking. If I sense some really like a pretty strong UB, I'll grab some, I like these black tourmaline bracelets, and I'll put another piece in front of me, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. But I like to protect myself, and I often burn sage or Palo Santo during a session. I did a session yesterday where somebody was releasing some pretty strong other energy. And I took the Palo Santo and I was just going at the screen like this. And they were outside, so I don't know if a gust of wind did something, but I went like this, and their hair from the same direction flew back. And I was like, I was a little surprised. I was like, okay, all right.
Wow.
I would say even before I found all this spirituality, the depth I am now, doing IFS virtually shows us, I could feel your system here. Like you are in California, I'm in Michigan. So just by seeing you, I think what it does is we're already connected, but it's really imperceivable if we're connected with everyone through our self-energy. But when I see you, it's almost like a little portal. So like now I can feel John. And the more we do this work and the more we get attuned to guides, the more intuitive we become, I feel like the more we start having X-ray vision also into other people's systems. Like I start to see people's parts. I can see when their guides are showing up. I might say, hey, there's a collection of elders here for you. Do you want to check and see? I sense it. And I only do that with clients where I feel like I have their permission. I wouldn't just do that. I kind of check in with people, and I try not to, some people say, you're just then convincing them that's what's happening, but it happens enough that, or I'll say, I see another little one poking around a corner. Can we check to see if there's another part behind this one?
When I went through my Reiki level 1 training, I realized something through that, which again, I have some parts like skeptical parts and self-conscious parts that are like, don't say this, you're going to sound crazy, you're not special. I'm like, okay, I hear you. You don't want me to boast. I get that. But I realize I can effectively feel what's happening in other people's bodies sometimes. Sometimes I'll feel that in mine, which not having a good framework for it can be activating or bothersome or feel like this empath thing, this involuntary empath thing, until I went to become Reiki trained and work with my Reiki master who does many modalities, but she helped me tune into that and use that. And sometimes we'll be in the middle of a session out and I can be wrong. So there's also that piece, the humility piece of, I don't know if this helps, take it. If it doesn't, throw it out. I try to offer every single thing that comes out of my mouth in that same open hand with clients. If I know and can tell that they know they can say no to me or go, that didn't work, then I know like the work is pretty safe. I love it when they like say no to me. So I might say, just check and see what's happening like in your lower belly, what's happening there. And they'll go, oh, yeah, there's like something happening. Okay. Yeah. Could you be with that? Would it make sense to go toward that? Would it make sense to put a hand there and just listen? And I'm feeling it in mine too, right? Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not, but I'm just curious about all of it, right? And again, this idea of I'm more open to the fact that there's many ways of receiving information, right? Whether it's internal and somatically from my body, information from outside sources, from ancestors, from guides, whatever. Hey, what would happen if we stayed open to all of that? And I also think sometimes when people go, some clients who are not big believers in this mystical side of things go and have experience like psychedelic experiences. And if they're open to that, they go, oh my gosh, there are many ways of receiving information. And that created this like temporary superhighway to receiving that information or receiving a guide and connecting with them or whatever. And I'm like, great. Do you want to use that? I just see it all as a tool. Same thing if a client comes in and goes, what works for me is my faith, my relationship with God, with Jesus Christ. Let's use that.
Yeah, totally.
It's a resource.
Yeah, 100%. And I think going back to sensing other people's systems, the analogy I like to use is almost like we're like creating a Venn diagram. Like here's my system's a circle, yours is a circle. And when we're together, they overlap and there's this we space. And I feel like you can sense my parts, I can sense your parts, you might sense my guides, I can sense your guides. The more, like you say, we flex that muscle, and it is like playing an instrument. Like everyone's capable of playing a guitar if you practice, and everyone's capable of having this, I believe, this intuitive seeing or knowing or sensing. Maybe it doesn't come through your eyes, maybe it comes through us feeling, and some people may not be interested in it, so that's great. But I do agree 100% with choice, and I also frame it that way. I'm not sure if this feels right to you. If not, just tell me to stop talking. Like, you know, but I'll share. You want me to share what I'm sensing right now, or what I just heard, or what just dropped for me? Because even Dick, back in the day when I was trained, they were like, if we get 30 people, then we'll have this level 1. That was back in 2010.
Now there's only 30,000 people. To be level 1 trained.
But even then, what really grabbed my attention was that there's wisdom inside of self energy. Right? So as our parts give us space, why is it that we just know what to do? Why is it that we have clarity and perspective? And on one hand, physiologically, when our parts relax, we don't need to be in this part of our brain wondering if we're safe. Like we could open up our creativity and our intuition. But I find when we allow wisdom to enter us, like, is it because I've been here before? Like, I believe in past lives. I see things. I connected with different lives. Or if maybe that's not true, but maybe there's the collective unconscious. William James said years and years ago that we all share some kind of level of unconsciousness. But there's a wisdom in that stream. And as like when I have clients who are just like, I just don't know what to do with this thing in my life, oftentimes as we get space from parts and get into it, I believe the heart is where we can tap into the self energy more than the head. And as we get into the heart space, all of a sudden, let's see what clarity comes for you.
Yep.
And it's usually the common denominator of all this wisdom is love.
100%.
Like it comes from a loving place. It's usually the wisdom when it drops. There's a sense of it's important beyond me. Like it's not so individualistic. I'm thinking about my whole family now. I'm thinking about my community or my workplace. Like the natural state of wisdom is not so individual as we think. I think the individualist stuff is more here.
Yep. That clarity is not always, I know exactly what's going to happen next in life. That clarity can be, I have enough wisdom and intuition and courage to meaningfully move forward in my life and take the next step. And I think that one of the best, most valuable promises that self can offer is that self can handle whatever happens next.
Yeah.
However lovely or horrific or anything in between it is, right? Because that's what life is. That's kind of the only thing that's guaranteed is it's going to be both. It's going to be pain and pleasure. It's going to be love and loss. And self can hold it all. And you can still move forward meaningfully in your life. And you can hold whatever happens next.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where the courage and the confidence of self comes in. Yeah. And I can say this for my personal life. This is my own anecdotal data. That when I'm given a download or given a guidance, it's not like a where I have clarity what's going to happen, but it's the clarity of what to do. Yeah, even if it feels like it's not the best for me personally, I'm getting the message is the right thing to do is to do this thing. And then I do the thing, and something usually unexpectedly good comes out of it, or my life just feels easier. And when I don't listen, I feel like I end up hitting all these walls. So I do feel like whether it's our ancestors or this collective wisdom of self-energy, I believe if it has a consciousness of some kind, it's trying to help us make decisions that are good for the betterment of all. And the more we listen, it doesn't mean there's never going to be tragedy or there's never going to be sorrow. That's part of life. No one promises that. But like you said, within these moments, there might be a sorrow or something that happens within that stems from that choice. But there's often a beauty in the sorrow, like a loving, like a beautiful grief that can happen. So it's, I guess, like for me with Akashic Records and guides, it's part of my biggest burdens is feeling disconnected and alone. So it's just like more people, like I just feel like there's more. I have my Akashic Record guides. I have my other guides. I have my ancestors. Like more and more I feel like, oh, there's that base they talk about in attachment theory. Like I have this home base that might not have come from my parents, but now it's coming from guides, ancestors, friends like you, like that.
You mentioned so much of the model is about love. And again, therapists, we're not supposed to use that word. We're supposed to find another more clinical term. So that's in there somewhere for me.
Yeah, I'd be fired because I'm often like, what kind of love does this part need?
Yeah, you'd be fired immediately. Exactly. You'd be reported to the board if there was one hanging over your head. It just sounds like some hippie stuff. It's funny because I'll be in session like, should I use that word? Should I not? Like, it really is what it is. But again, I'm primarily a trauma therapist. And the more I think about trauma and learn about it and work with it, trauma to me is marked by a loss of agency and choice and a loss of, or the threat of the loss of connection, right? A lot of times kids, they don't have choice, right? And the parent that just yelled at them or hit them for their survival, and if they want dinner tonight, they have to bypass their own parts and reconnect with that parent or forgive the parent, even though the kid's not ready to move on, right? Mm-hmm. This is content that just happened yesterday in a session with one of my adults, right? And to where when this plays out with her in her work life and with her boss, it feels like she's there again. And it feels that high stakes. And it feels like I need to reassure my boss that we're good. It's okay. Even though he just yelled at me and name called me and raised his voice and all of that. Right. So there's this self-abandoning, right? This bypassing of these parts and really bypassing of truth. Because the truth is, it's not okay that you speak to me that way.
That's right.
And like she has choice and agency now, right? But when that moment happens with her boss and she gets blended, she's not there anymore and she's blended. And in that part, it's, I need to maintain connection with this person who's yelling at me. And it's confusing. Like, this is what gaslighting is, right? It's like, I need to shape shift in whatever way I need to do right now to stay lovable to this person right in front of me, right? And there I am, further unintentionally burdening and bypassing my own parts that are holding these fears, right? Yeah, I see it playing out back then, right?
Yeah.
I see where the trailhead takes us. I see it happening right now as a 32-year-old working a tech job, right?
Yeah. And as you say that, those words, those simple words, the little phrases that we have in IFS, of course you have to do that. Or of course you're angry, because for me, anger is like that truth, but on fire. Okay, we've had enough and I want you to know this truth. I'm going to yell at you about it.
Yeah.
But when we're little, we don't have a choice, because I have to, it's a survival technique, like you said, who's going to feed me?
Move on. Yep.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
So, and I told this client yesterday, always with the preface that I'm an extremely imperfect parent, which I know is shocking to everyone. Something I try to do if I miss the mark with my daughter and I end up apologizing to her is I make sure that she knows she doesn't have to forgive me. She doesn't have to be ready to move on right now or at all. Because I'm trying, really trying. And again, I'm sure I'm screwing her up in some other ways that I can't see. But in that moment, trying to make sure that she doesn't have to move on for me and I can be with my parts and the parts that are up, parts that are holding the shame around daddy lost his temper or whatever, because we were rushing, we were going to be late for school. And that's why. It doesn't really matter why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to just give her that.
That's great. What I like to say is like a check for myself, and as I'm coaching clients with parenting, is the thing I'm about to say or do is, if we boil it down to its essence, is it so that I'll be okay?
Exactly.
And if that's the essence of it, just try to pause and not do it.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll start seeing your relationship improve, because all these, I'm apologizing and I need you to forgive me. Everything is about, it's all centered so I'm okay.
Yep.
And it really has nothing to do with the child.
Yeah.
And I find as we pause on anything so the only things we're doing is really in the interest of the child, we are creating like new neural pathways and new habits, and it becomes our new way of being. And now the child, like I've seen like glorious relationship building with my clients, because I do a lot of work, especially with adult kids. Like my new specialty really is working with parents and like 20 or 30-year-old kids.
Yeah.
Because at this point, they're just like, I don't know if I can be around you. Like, you hurt me, you shame me, and I don't have to be around you anymore. And these relationships are really struggling. And I basically work with the parents like I would if they had toddlers.
Yeah.
Like, how do you help this child feel loved, seen, accepted? How do you let them explore? How do you let them like flourish in their own way of being, and you be curious about it so that they have more space to do it, and how they want to show you things and how they want to include you? And helping kids be heard by how their parents, what they think are doing is helpful, is hurting.
Yep.
So it's a beautiful thing that you're already like noticing, okay, you don't have to forgive me right now. And that's why I love that with this repair piece, where we can come to you and not ask the child, is there something I did that hurt you so I can apologize? It's more, I realize by monitoring my own behavior, I did something that I don't feel comfortable with, that I'm assuming hurt you. And I want to tell you, I didn't like my own behavior. And I'm curious, how did it impact you?
I love that. There's bits and pieces sometimes that I really like from like the 12-step community. And one is this idea of keeping your side of the street clean. And I think about that in this type of parenting moment, right? Of a parent really taking ownership and responsibility for their parts and their behavior and the things they said and the damage that they did cause, right? I think there's something really powerful in that. I also have a client, and she might even be listening, who is going through the very thing you're talking about, which is a kid is now in their 20s, doesn't, quote, need mom for any immediate needs now, food, shelter, money, whatever, but they have a lot of repair to do, right? And sometimes mom will come toward the kid and go, I'm sorry, you know how sorry I am. And it does the opposite of what she wants. Because what she's trying to do is say, I missed the mark then, and I wasn't the safe base that you needed then. I'm working on being that now, if you want that from me. But there's a tension to it. There's an impulse. It feels like an impulse of, I'm sorry. In other words, I need you to help me with this guilt because I can't hold this guilt. So I need you to relieve me of it, right? So I remind you all of the time, every single time I talk to you for the past 10 years, how sorry I am. And it doesn't really work.
One of the best ways to know what's working is to look at the reaction of the child.
Yeah.
And if I apologize and then they pull back or roll their eyes, or if they get quiet, it's like, it should be a little flag that, oh, I must be blended with a part here.
Yeah.
Because anytime that I speak from a part, it means there's a way for me to be okay.
Yeah.
So if I say to you, I'm sorry, please release me of my deeds.
That's right.
Then I'll be okay. I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. I won't be feeling shame. But so how do we know when? Sometimes we might not realize my behavior is hurting somebody and I can't do a repair because I don't even know. But what we can do is watch that. If I have an interaction, even if I thought it was positive, and my children detach, pull away, get annoyed or irritable, instead of, in my book, you point at them, the Jamaican proverb, there's 3 fingers pointing back. I must have at least 3 parts that were interacting with this child, like 1 exile that was sitting in the background and 2 protectors that were bouncing off of each other, 1 critic chewing at me and other ones begging for forgiveness. And so if we just watch our children's reaction and say, I am responsible for whatever just happened, what if I check in to see what the heck was happening with me to create this effect? And if we even say to the child, wow, I just noticed something happened and I could tell what I said didn't land on you well, or what I said might have just hurt you, and instead of, maybe kids can't even say what it was, but I could say, can I just say that again in a different way? Or can I just let you know I must not have done that? I think what I'm really trying to say is, I love you and I wish our relationship could be closer, and I want to do what's right for us to be there. And if you want to tell me what you need, I'd be happy to hear it without even saying anything else.
I love that. Sometimes if I ask a parent in a session if they can soften, if they can unblend, if they can connect to their heart, if they can connect just to the center of their chest and wait. And when it comes to you, tell me right now in this therapy session what you want to say to your daughter. It'll sound a lot like that.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, so go tell her that.
Oh, wait,
but do it from this
love
point.
again. We're talking about love, man.
Yeah, I didn't say it though. Right.
I say quite often, can you give this part the love and attention it needed?
Yeah.
That you needed, that you didn't get. I don't understand why. I guess that's part of being a practitioner. I don't get why love is bad to say.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know it comes with stuff. It creates liability, I'm sure. Yeah. But when you look at Frank Anderson's book, I believe he said the cure for trauma is love.
He's right, but he hasn't gotten fired yet, as far as I know, or lost his license. Yeah, no, I have a lot of thoughts around that, probably for another day, part 3 of our conversations here. Okay. But yeah, I love that. A lot of clients, they want to know, like, how do I know when I'm blended? And this client yesterday, that's what she wanted to know. And I think one of my go-tos is this piece around non-agenda. When you're saying, I'm sorry, you know how sorry I am. Does it feel like you're trying to make something happen there? To your point. Yeah, I need you to forgive me. I need you to relieve me of this guilt so I can be the parent that you're asking me to be. That's still all yours. That's all your work.
But I think helping people, because this is something that I've really developed in myself, is if we can't sense I have an agenda because I'm so blended, that if even a manager part is watching the reaction of the people we're talking to, that might give us just enough flag that we pause and say, what if it just means I'm blended and I have to check? If I get a negative reaction or the reaction I wasn't hoping for, like for me, I had a part who still comes around, but he's not as active as he used to be, that thought, if you jump in and help somebody with whatever they're doing, it will guarantee them to love me and think I'm valuable. And it would literally create the opposite effect.
Yeah.
because I would jump in and help, and especially my own kids, they would feel like I don't trust them.
Yeah.
I'm like not letting them
Unintentionally
do it
tells them,
their
I don't believe you
way.
can do it. I don't
I'm
trust you
stripping
to
you
do
of
it.
your efficacy. Like
You
I'm
need
treating
me.
you like a child if you're an
Yeah.
adult. I'm doing this to you. It actually took an IFS person who I said, hey, I'm realizing I'm doing this helping thing, and I can tell this part really wants connection. And it was a little harsh, but he goes, isn't that interesting that it's causing the opposite effect? And it was literally like a punch to my gut. And I got blended by shame and all kinds of things for a couple of days. But afterwards, the phoenix that came out of the fire was like this whole new life for me, that I was like, wow, this helping that I'm doing, it never hit me that this is something that's causing me more harm in my life than good.
Yeah. Somehow we're going to run out of time again, Seth, which we either need to start doing 4-hour episodes or just once a month.
We should just hang out all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be like, that's called the life show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can rebrand the whole podcast and everything. 49 minutes in, and we're like just getting to even juicier stuff. So we have so much overlap and love of the model, and this curiosity around spirituality and mysticism piece is great and really fun to explore with you. And also, I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, you need to write your follow-up book or a few follow-up books, because self-led, and I've recommended it to a lot of clients, it gives people a really good grasp, again, like with this client on self-led parenting, like what does that look like? But I think even that as a follow-up book would be so amazing. Like,
what would be the follow-up book, just on parenting or
self-led parenting? Yeah,
I've thought about that. I've also thought of something around mysticism. And
yeah, I think both.
Yeah, I think I could make each chapter a book, was my original thought. Do something all at, like, now flesh out the whole thing about what can you do at work. And I don't think I can do relationships yet, because I'm still working.
Sure.
Like, my parts let me do enough. The disclaimer at the beginning that I'm still
to get the chapter
still working at it, where my other parts wouldn't let me even publish the book until I've actually was a self-led parent enough of the time.
Yeah, I just love the approach to the book, because it's, what does it look like to be self-led in this domain of your life? Because a lot of times that's the main thing that people are coming to therapy with, right? Like, how do I be a better parent? So it's like, how do I apply this whole IFS stuff to this domain of my life? Because that's the one causing me the most agony right now. I'm good at work. I've got all that. That's the case for this client.
I'll throw out a phrase that I've been using lately. Maybe all therapists and practitioners are listening. It might be helpful.
It better not be love, but
teaching a level 1, I'd add in, what if I don't know how I'm even going to phrase this, but if we do this work, I think you'll have a different lived experience, right? So if this manager allows us to go to this exile, what would life be like for you? Would it be better for you, manager, if this exile was healed? But what if this manager who really wants us to have a different lived experience? Like, what if we could have that? And I think the promise of this model is, as I'm walking this path on this earth, I have a different lived experience on how people respond to me, how I respond to others. And it is really about, a lot of it is about how our protectors shift. Like, we heal our exiles, but when the protectors shift, that's when we feel a lived experience, from my opinion, almost even more, because the exiles is usually back there in the unconscious. And where, like, I mean, my protectors don't have to do all this stuff anymore. There's less of those F's that I have to give. Life just feels a lot better.
Yep. Yeah, that's well said. Seth, we will absolutely do it again. For now, how do you want to wrap up, or how do people learn more about you, your book, and your work, and how do they get in touch with you?
If you just go to sethkopald.com, SETHKOPALD, it has my link to my book. It has my email, the ways of contacting me. As I add new things, I'll be adding it. I will be doing a self-led parenting retreat with Soleology in October. So if people want to come to Connecticut and be with me for 5 days, it's going to be like deep attunement to your own parts, like almost a reparenting inside, so that we can really get the feel of how we can be with our children. But it's going to be a lot of really deep level, what I call like exquisite attunement. And it probably will dip into a lot of spiritual and mystical things, because it just happens when I teach. So
amazing. We'll be sure to include your links in the description, of course. And yeah, thank you again for being here. Part 2 was really great. So thanks again, Seth, and we'll be in touch until the next time.
Thank you, John. It's always good to hang with you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Going Inside. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching, and share your favorite episode with a friend. You can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at John Clarke Therapy, and apply to work with me one-on-one at johnclarketherapy.com. See you next time.